Ireland, an island draped in mist and myth, where the light falls softly across green fields and stories rise from the stones. Her river runs through valleys like silver threads, and her skies seem to sing when the wind moves through the trees. To the eye, she is beauty itself, warm, wild, and endlessly inviting. But beauty can be a veil. In Ireland, for all her charm, wears one well. Behind the ruins of ivy-covered chapels and beneath the soil of quiet convent gardens, another Ireland breathes. One shaped not by song, but by silence. In the small town of Tuam in County Galway lies a site that has come to symbolize one of the darkest chapters in the country's modern history. The Tuam Mother and Baby Home operated between 1925 and 1961 by the Bon Secours Sisters. This institution is now internationally infamous for the neglect, suffering, and death of nearly 800 children, whose remains were believed to have been discarded in a disused septic tank. The scandal surrounding Tuam is not merely about one location. It serves as a lens through which we can examine Ireland's deeply entrenched attitudes towards sexuality, morality, and gender during the 20th century. Following the establishment of the Irish Free State in 1922, the government was heavily influenced by Catholic teachings, prioritized moral rectitude and religious conformity. Central to the ideological framework was the protection of public morality, particularly the control of female sexuality. Women who became pregnant outside of marriage were viewed not as individuals in need of support, but as moral pariahs who posed a threat to the moral fabric of society. To address this problem, a network of institutions emerged: Magdalene laundries, industrial schools, and mother and baby homes. These were often run by religious orders, supported by the state and funded through a combination of government grants and charitable donations. The Tuam Mother and Baby Home was one such institution. Managed by the Bon Secours Sisters, it operated out of a former workhouse, reflecting its roots in earlier poor law era social policies. Life inside the Tuam home was harsh and austere. Pregnant women, often in their teens and early 20s, were sent to the institution by their families under immense societal pressure. Once admitted, these women were expected to perform physically demanding chores with little rest or medical care. The shame imposed upon them was palpable. They were labeled as fallen and treated accordingly. During childbirth, medical attention was minimal. Childbirth took place within the confines of the institution, often without professional medical assistance. Infants who survived birth faced high risk of malnutrition, disease, and neglect. Records show that between 1925 and 1961, 796 children died while in the care of the Tuam home. Causes of death range from gastroenteritis to malnutrition and respiratory infections, ailments largely preventable with adequate care. Behind the high stone walls of Ireland's mother and baby homes, life for women and children was marked not by care, but by control. Young mothers, some barely more than children themselves, arrived cloaked in shame, often sent by families, priests, or local authorities. Many were told it was for their own good. In truth, it was exile. Once admitted, the women were stripped not only of their names, but of their dignity. They became anonymous labourers, forced to scrub floors, launder sheets, clean lavatories, and serve the religious order in silence. The homes were cold, not just in temperature, but in tone. Conversations were forbidden, emotions were a weakness, and any show of affection was discouraged or punished. Labour and childbirth took place without compassion or adequate medical care. Women endured the pain alone, often in silence, told that their suffering was penance for their sins. In many cases, their babies were taken from them shortly after birth, some for adoption, some sent to orphanages, and others heartbreakingly buried without ceremony. Mothers were rarely told their children had gone. For the children who remained in the institutions, life was equally harsh. Infants and toddlers were raised with minimal care, often underfed, frequently neglected. Older children slept in rows of iron beds, dressed in uniforms that stripped them of individuality. Many had no memory of being touched with kindness. The nuns who ran the homes were often stern, emotionally distant, and obsessed with discipline and order. There was little warmth and even less mercy. The church's role in operating institutions like the Tuam home was part of a broader strategy of moral policing, in which the redemption could only be achieved through repentance and suffering. The Irish state, far from being a neutral bystander, was complicit in these arrangements. Local health boards referred women to the homes and provided financial support to the religious orders that ran them. Adoption procedures, many of them illegal and coercive, were facilitated by both church and state authorities. In many cases, mothers were pressured to give up their children for adoption, often to families in the United States, under the pretense that it was in the child's best interest. Responsibility for the homes rested not just with the church, but with the state. The institutions were run by religious orders such as the Bon Secours Sisters, the Sacred Heart Sisters, the Good Shepherd Sisters, and others, but were financially supported by public funds. Local authorities paid a fee per woman and child sent to the homes. In Northern Ireland, similar patterns existed. Both Catholic and Protestant institutions operated under government oversight, with funding from local councils and charities. The system was upheld by a shared silence. Families, communities, churches, and governments all complicit in the belief that shame must be hidden, no matter the cost. The silence surrounding Tuam remained largely unbroken until the courageous and meticulous research of local historian Catherine Corliss. In the early 2010s, Corliss began investigating the history of the Tuam home, motivated by childhood memories and a desire to understand what had occurred there. She obtained death certificates for 796 children, but found no corresponding burial records. Her findings, published in 2014, suggested that the children's remains were entered in a disused sewage system on the property. Initial public and governmental responses range from skepticism to outright denial. However, as evidence mounted, including the testimony of local residents and historical documentation, the truth can no longer be ignored. As Catherine Corliss' quiet research cracked open the silence surrounding Tuam, revealing that nearly 800 children lay in the unmarked grave beside a former baby and mother home, the world took notice. But instead of compassion or accountability, powerful voices within the church and its defenders responded with scorn. The Catholic League, a US-based lobby group, dismissed Corliss as a mere typist, attacking her lack of academic credentials rather than the horrifying facts she had unearthed. Rather than confront the shame of its role, it tried to discredit the messenger. In doing so, it revealed a deeper truth, that the effort to silence these stories did not end when the homes closed. It continues in shadows and in statements, even today. In response to public outcry, the Irish government established a commission of investigation into mother and baby homes in 2015. A 2021 report confirmed many of Corliss's findings and acknowledged systems of abuse and neglect. Subsequently, the government announced plans to excavate the Tuam site. As of 2025, excavation efforts are underway. The goal is not only to recover and identify the remains, but to provide them with a dignified reburial. This process is both a scientific endeavor and a deeply moral one, an attempt to right decades of old wrongs. It's easy to imagine these places as relics of a distant past, stone ruins tucked away behind ivy and fog. But the truth is more unsettling. Across Ireland, more than 100 institutions operated not in some ancient, unforgiving century, but well into living memory. From Tuam to Cork, Belfast to Roscrea, they existed in nearly every county. Their doors opened to generations of women and girls who were hidden away, forgotten, or deliberately erased. The last of these homes, St. Patrick's on Dublin's Navan Road, did not close until 1998. This is not history, it's our present, still echoing in the voices of survivors, still stitched into the silence of the country's conscience. Each institution was not an isolated story, but part of a vast, state-sanctioned system, one that punished poverty, policed morality, and buried its secrets in the earth.